So, Jason, for months you've been telling us that atheism has these obvious design flaws, that it's riddled with internal contradictions and conflicts, and it's philosophically unsound and so forth, but you never deliver. You never explain to us how this is the case. You never offer an argument. When you try, you fail, always, and without exception. You either make completely incoherent nonsense arguments that cannot be taken seriously, or you resort to the most pathetic logical fallacy in the book, The Argument from Consequences, which always rests on the notion that the universe is this intrinsically wholesome place that owes as a solution to every problem and to every moral quandary, which is so far detached from reality. I'm not even going into this. So let's just look at your latest two attempts to discredit atheism. I will call the first one, which you propose in your video entitled The Insanity of Atheism, I will call it The Argument from Bestiality. It goes like follows, based on three premises. Premise one, Christopher Hitchens said something that can be construed as him being willing to regard bestiality as justifiable under certain circumstances, provided, of course, that you actually correctly represent what he said. Premise two, Christopher Hitchens is an atheist. Premise three, bestiality is kinda yucky. Conclusion, atheism is false. Further conclusion, therefore God. That's the childish nonsense we keep getting from you, Jason. How can anybody take this seriously? And then you have the gall to go on and connect this to the silly Dostoevsky quote that once God is excluded, everything is possible, or something like that. Well, Jason, Christopher Hitchens expressly pointed out that he considers the capability of suffering pain as a main criterion for what is permissible and for what is not. So obviously Dostoevsky does not apply to him. And then you say, but science, if you base everything on science, science can be abused or is liable to the biases of scientists. Well, congratulations, Jason. This is the same observation we keep making with divine command theory, because what the text says and what is permissible according to God is also liable to human interpretation. So we're in the same boat, and you are not capable of admitting that, which is quite sad. So argument two is the redonkulous argument from French Revolution or something like that. So there were a couple of atheists who did crummy things during the French Revolution, and then it took Napoleon to restore order, accepting your comic book version of what the French Revolution actually consisted in. Well, I hate to break it to you, Jason, but Napoleon wasn't an evangelical Christian. He was actually more like a deist. He certainly didn't accept divine command theory. He was more into natural law, just like people such as Jefferson, who came up with the Jefferson Bible. So you cannot abuse these people to support your position, because they didn't believe in talking snakes and donkeys. And if they knew what we know today, they would join us in laughing at you for believing that the entire geographical distribution of animals today can be explained on account of a boat that landed in Armenia 4,500 years ago. And so forth. Okay, if you think that we need some sort of civic religion to keep society stable, then you can go back to the end of the queue, lining up with Shintoism and Confucianism and Hinduism and Sikhism and Buddhism and all these other belief systems that kept society stable and afloat during centuries and millennia and in places and times and 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 uh, and cultures which were never penetrated by Christianity. And stop making this silly equivocation fallacy between your fringe evangelical Christianity and the sort of Christianity that might have been something that George Washington could identify with. This is just silly. So you want to argue for evangelical Christianity. You don't want to argue for deism. You don't want to argue for civic religion or anything of the kind. Stop being dishonest and stop making a fool out of yourself and stop making arguments from consequences, because they're not getting you anywhere. To quote Christopher Hitchens, whom you're so enamored with, you're still carrying an empty sack.